Welcome back to 2017. In 2016, we were graced with a number of really spectacular films, but unfortunately, there's always that crop of films that I found really disappointing. It could be the screenplay, the script writing, the direction, the cinematography, the CGI. There's a number of reasons why a film could be so terrible. Unfortunately, even though a film might be terrible, box office results tell us another story, as we can see with the list of films that we're about to go through today. Also add that I didn't get to see every film that was released in the past year, 2016, and I especially didn't get to see all the bad films that came out that year. The reason being was because once they'd come out in America and other territories around the world, was there really any point releasing them cinematically if they tanked at the box office there and the reviewers and critics gave them terrible scores? Not necessarily, so they were straight to DVD releases. Some of them I picked up just for laughs to see how they were, and by and large, they were all disappointing. I don't think there was any film that really got a low score off Letterboxd or IMDb that I thought blew me away, and that's what I expected. Just as example, there was films such as Nine Lives and Max Steel. Didn't get cinematic releases here, and rightly so. I'm still yet to see these films and see how terrible they are. On the other hand, there are films that we will go to now that are honorable mentions. These are films that were terrible by most people's assumption. In my point of view, they were not necessarily as bad as some people said, but they still deserve to be known that they were not the best films of the year by any means. So let's go through these ones, and I'm sure you'll know many of them. Start by mentioning Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad, because these weren't the DC films that we'd wanted. I have low expectations now. Please raise my expectations. And Criminal as well. What a terrible action film. And any action film that came out last year was pretty mediocre to begin with anyway. I'm also going to make mention of Independence Day. If you want to do science fiction right, watch Arrival. That's the best science fiction film that came out last year. And Melissa McCarthy's roles, like the boss and her role in Ghostbusters, she's a one-trick pony. Please, I don't want to see this again. Now, let's get into the list of films now. Bear in mind, this is just my thoughts and my viewpoints, not necessarily representative of what you believe. If you loved any of these films, I'm really sorry, because this is how I feel. But feel free to comment and let me know why you love them so much, because we're all entitled to our own opinion. This is just an art form and expression, and this is just exactly how I felt after watching some of these movies that came out. Number 10, I've chosen a film that stars one of my all-time favourite actors. He's impressed me in every role he's ever been in, apart from this film trilogy, and that is Tom Hanks, starring in none other than Dan Brown's Inferno in the role of Robert Langdon. You could argue that this film had some great cinematics and that the European landscape looked so beautiful on screen, but unfortunately it just didn't work for a dull story, even though there was an idea of having cryptic clues and it trying to be the next Jason Bourne type or like a 007-ish type film. It just doesn't work that way. And the dialogue is so stupid. I think at one point, there was that point at the beginning of the film where he mentioned something where, could you give me that liquid that you drink in the morning? I'm not sure what it's called. And he's referring to coffee. Yet 30 seconds later, he gets onto Google and he types in his email address and password. And he's just woken up from being out of this sort of like a coma in a hospital. It just doesn't make sense. I despise this film, and I'm very disappointed that Ron Howard hasn't really nailed the trilogy as he should have, because I loved all of the books. The books were excellent. It's just very disappointing to see them go down this path. 9, I will firstly start off by mentioning that they can never get video game movies right. You look at Warcraft, it was terrible. You look at Angry Birds, it put you to sleep at times. But my choice for the worst video game movie of the year is Assassin's Creed. Not even an all-star cast of the likes of Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard could have saved this heap of mess from being just so confusing and convoluted. I did play the Assassin's Creed games growing up. I haven't played them in a while, but this film wanted to be so serious. It took itself too seriously. And unfortunately, it made the list. And I'm sure that a lot of people who played the games growing up are bitterly disappointed in the outcome. This film was a January movie, so it's no surprise that this film tanked and was terrible and just was downright stupid. And that was The Fifth Wave. Come on, Chloe Grace Moretz, you can do better than this. I mean, you impressed me in Hugo, but this? Seriously? I'm just sick and tired of seeing these book to film adaptations of these teen dystopian stories. I think we really enjoyed watching the likes of the Hunger Games, and the Maze Runner was good as well. They started out really well, but unfortunately, they've just gone so downhill. And the dialogue in The Fifth Wave was just so stupid and terrible. The acting was just, I just don't want to talk about it. And the premise was just out of this world, literally, because it was about an alien invasion. I heard the book was good, but this film, it's just a mess of a film. And you should avoid, and do not make a sequel to this film. Do not. Please do not. We do not need another one. No surprise at number 7 that I'm sick of seeing these live-action fairy tale adaptations. At times Disney does it right. At other times you get films like The Huntsman Winter's War that just doesn't do anything right at all and is an unnecessary sequel. Prequel, I should say. Emily Blunt in this film was just stupid. This is a CGI-filled mess of a film that does not really make use of its subject matter very well, and its target audience is probably too young to really understand really how bad it is because they're children. But the other issue with the film is that it felt a little bit violent for some people of that age. So why would you even add some of these themes and ideas into this type of movie when you're trying to release it to an audience that wants to watch it and enjoy it? And families are going to feel that way too when they watch this film at times. So yeah, just if you can avoid this film, avoid it at all costs. I already had a massive tirade about how much I hate these teen dystopian films coming out. But I'll say a few words about Allegiant, Detergent, Insurgent, whatever the film's called. And I'll say it's a CGI-filled mess once more. The graphics are like PlayStation 2 graphics. I hated Jeff Daniels in this film. I hated everyone. It sucked. Moving on to number 5, and number 5 was a film that was meant to make me feel alive and happy to see a sequel from one of my all-time favourite comedies from childhood, and that was Zoolander. How the hell can you screw up Zoolander? Like, seriously? But they did it, and I'm sorry, Ben Stiller. Seriously, Ben Stiller, I commend you for writing a film, especially after the trauma and stress that you'd been through, and the fact that you had the courage to speak out to all of us about cancer and how it affects people. That was great. But unfortunately, that still doesn't mean that you can write a good film and act in a good film. Hell no. If this film gets nominated for Razzies, and it is, then I can clearly see why. I'm very bitterly disappointed with everyone in this film. That includes you, Will Ferrell. You. Anything more scary than having a Stephen King novel butchered by filmmakers is the fact that we've got 2 more on the way in the Dark Tower and the remake of It. Cell was just a terrible heap of mess, and I don't need to talk about it, but please, if you can, just avoid this film. And number 3, I'm going to continue the trend with those really crappy action thriller movies that I mentioned. Bruce Willis was really great in the Die Hard series, but he plays this mob boss in this terrible film, Precious Cargo, and if you have the opportunity to watch it, just run away because it just doesn't work. And down at number 2, I'm going to give mention to a film that a lot of people have hated this year, and I can clearly see why they hated. And it stars Rob Schneider, in Norm of the North. Norm of the North was a terrible film, and I don't know who the hell financed this film, but I'm seriously disappointed in the way this film turned out. Animation was having a great year until this film came in, or should I say, animation had a great year after this film came out. the story of this polar bear that goes to America to try and stop people from building houses and developers from destroying his homeland in the middle of like the Arctic. Like seriously, and the songs just didn't work. And I heard stories of children who were walking out of films. These are 5, 6 year old kids who felt like they wanted to just leave in a film that was targeted at them. Seriously, Rob Schneider. I can see that there was a point in time where we really enjoyed the work that you did, but look, the reason you're not getting good acting gigs, the reason these comedy films are not working for you is because you just sometimes just can't you can't act at times. You just can't. So just give up now and don't let us see you in another crappy performance like this one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here we are at my number one worst film of the year for 2016. This should come as no surprise to any of you, but this film is billed as a historical epic. I could have added Ben-Hur right here as well, because that was just as bad, but I chose Gods of Egypt. Gods of Egypt was just terrible. It was a new all-time low. There's not really much more I can say about Gods of Egypt that hasn't already been said, because it was a terrible screenplay, terrible script. The dialogue was laughable at times. With that in mind, I will say that ultimately 2016 was a pretty mediocre year for cinema. There are a few films that you feel will be instant classics, such as like sort of La La Land and Moonlight. But apart from that, I really felt that 2016 didn't really resonate with me either. But I'm interested to know what you thought were some of the worst films of the year and what your thoughts on the list were as well. So please feel free to comment below. This is just my own opinion. These are my thoughts, my views. Ultimately, it turns out that most of these films were Razzie nominated anyway. But we'll see how that turns out. And if you like what you see and you want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be back with more.